Should I be a speaker or should I be a consultant? What's the difference? The real question is, how can I make the most money? Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the show. It's episode 23, and I can assure you it will be power-packed. It'll be power-packed today because my guest is going to bring you crazy value. I'm sure of it. But before we begin the show, I just wanted to remind you to grab episode 22. Sana Rasul shared with you how you can be heard, and she spoke through the lens of human resources, but the principles apply to you in many industries. So head over to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, Spotify to download the episode, listen to it, and leave a review. That's how the show gets shared with more ears and eyes. We need you people to make this thing grow. Let's make this thing grow together. I want to share with you a quick resource. My guest today has a book, and I want you to go grab it. It's called 30 and More, Applying the Assets of Maturity, Wisdom, and Experience for Personal and Professional Success. It's on Amazon, and I'll make sure that the link is in the show notes for you. Again, the book is 30 and More, Applying the Assets of Maturity, Wisdom, and Experience for Personal and Professional Success. And it's by my guest today, Alan Weiss. Hey, I let the cat out of the bag, so let's jump into the show. Alan Weiss is a member of the National Speakers Association Professional Speakers Hall of Fame, a man who Marshall Goldsmith has called the finest entrepreneurial coach in the world. He's published more than 60 books, and his bestseller, $1 Million Consulting, is now in its 5th edition. As I just mentioned, his latest book is called 30 and More, Applying the Assets of Maturity, Wisdom, and Experience for Personal and Professional Success. Hey, Alan Weiss has got a story. Let's tell it. Alan, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Robert. I could just listen to you forever.
Well, I don't want you to listen to me. I'd rather them listen to you because you're the one with the gold nuggets, my friend. So let's give it to them. How about that?
Okay.
All right. So listen, I've just read all of these things about you. You've got more than 60 books. You've got 2 more that are on the way, and I'm sure you've got more coming. How are you able to produce so much content?
Well, I just signed another contract for a new book called Fearlessness, which will be out next year. I have a lot of content because I'm fearless. I write, I speak, I put things out there. I don't second guess. I don't self-edit. My feeling is I'm doing people a service. If people don't like it or disagree, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not looking for affection. I'm looking for respect. You know, I have a dog. Fine. So I don't hesitate, and I write rapidly because I'm not constantly trying to seek out the perfect way to do things.
Wow, that's amazing. I looked at your website and I saw your blog, and people kind of think about blogs as this thing where you go and you pour 500-600 words, 1,000 words in and pour all of this information into it. And I looked at yours, and some of them are 2-3 lines, just some pithy thought that you had that day. Tell me what caused you to choose to just share information in that quick way.
Well, I have 2 blogs, a public one, which is on my site, alanweiss.com, and then the private one, just for my community around the world. And I post on each one each day. And as you say, some of them are just a few words or a couple of sentences. Some are longer. The shorter ones, my community calls Alan-isms. And, I might talk about what's irritating me at the moment or what I think can help people. But, our capability to convey useful information in a short amount of words is really vital. And most people are prolix. They're verbose. They talk too much. Right. And the ability to tell people what they need to hear and not everything you know is a distinction of people who are truly experts.
Wow. So I want to ask a little bit about your journey. So you're here now, and you just mentioned in the green room earlier that you're going to be in my area doing a convention, an event soon. When you started out in the industry, How did you know where you were headed? Did you know you were always going to end up where you are now?
Oh, hell no. I mean, nobody majors in this in school. If somebody told me I'd be living this lifestyle when I was young, I'd be saying, where's the line for the LSD, right? Because whoever believed you could live like this? I am the American dream, Wow. I grew up poor, very poor. My parents used to fight over $40 in rent money and where to get it from. I entered this profession in the 70s in a training firm in Princeton. And I thought, well, I could never train as well as some of these people. Oh, my God, it's so impressive. And 11 years later, I was number 2 person only to the owner. I left to become president of a consulting firm in Rhode Island. It was how I got up here. And I got fired in 15, 18 months. And I said, wow, that's it. No moron will ever fire me again. I went out on my own in 85. And I realized 2 things. Number one is this is a relationship business. It's all about marketing and relationships. And the second is I would never, ever, ever charge for a time unit or a head in a classroom or a book or a set of materials. I would only charge for value. And those 2 materials saved my life. Those 2 decisions saved my life. And here I am.
So let's explore that just a little bit more, because a lot of business owners, I remember when I first got into business, one of the questions I would be always asked was, what's your hourly rate? And you're saying, oh my gosh, you're not charging per unit, you're charging for value. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, if you charge by an hour or a day, you're an amateur. And the problem is there's an ethical conflict. The client is best served by a quick resolution to his or her issues. The consultant is only best served if they're there for a long time, if you charge them by time units. So my feeling is, if I can solve your issue in 5 minutes, I've given you a great amount of value. But you have to have the self-esteem and the ability to convey that, to educate the client about that, and not say you need McKinsey coming in here with 500 people for 3 months just to learn your business. And that's what I did. And once I convinced Merck and Hewlett-Packard, and I was working for firms of that ilk, Citibank and so on, after that, it was magic.
Wow. So you mentioned the term that is a little bit nebulous for some people, the word consultant, right? And so you're a member of the National Speakers Hall of Fame, and a lot of speakers tend to stay away from that term consultant. Why should speakers add that to what they do?
Let me point out, I'm also a member of the Institute of Management Consultants. Okay. And I'm only 2 people in history who is in the Hall of Fame of the Speakers and a fellow in the Institute of Management Consultants. There's only 2 of us ever. Wow. And speakers are really poor marketers. They're terrible marketers, by and large. And I don't care where speakers go, but this notion that you have to specialize or die is absolutely ridiculous. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, New Hampshire has a license plate, live free or die. And I'm thinking, isn't there a middle ground here, So my feeling is you generalize and thrive. And speakers have to realize that what they have is expertise. They don't have a speech. They have expertise. And the expertise can be conveyed in a lot of ways. Coaching, writing, speaking, consulting, and so on. A consultant is someone who provides advisory help to improve someone's condition. And I want to tell you right here and now, for all of you listeners, that anybody who thinks they need a coaching certificate to coach, I want to sell them some swampland in Florida that has a lot of alligators in it.
Communication, motivation, leadership, and more. You're listening to the RK3 Show.
Hey everyone, while we have a little break, I just wanted to remind you that if you have any questions and you want to hear them answered on the show, shoot me a voicemail. Go to robertkennedy3.com/voicemail. That's Robert Kennedy, the number 3/voicemail. And I will play the voicemail on an upcoming episode and answer your question. Also, I wanted to share with you the Speak Right Now community. If you have an interest in speaking or writing, come hang out with me in the Speak Right Now community on Facebook for motivation, inspiration, and education. Go to HTTP. Well, you don't need the HTTP part. www.facebook.com/groups/Speak Right Now community. That's www.facebook.com/groups/Speak Right Now community. And now back to the show. So you're saying, I love what you said, generalize and thrive. But a lot of advice that we're given is, you've got to be specific. You got to niche down. And the word, maybe that the phrase that I hear a lot is, you've got to choose a lane.
It's wrong. It's damn wrong. You know why? Those people are not in the high speed lane.
Wow.
In the high occupancy lane, those people.
Wow.
Consequently, you don't need to choose a lane. What you need to do is choose a destination. Because there's something called an airplane that gets you there fast in any lane you're in. You can roller skate, ride a horse, take a car, or you can use an airplane. And people are full of these almost mindless aphorisms, what you have to understand is that if you're here to improve the client condition, find the best way to do it. It might be by X, by Y, by Z, or by a combination. But a lot of speakers who you alluded to want to stand up on stage and get 10s on smile sheets and get a standing ovation. I'm hired to provoke people. I'm not hired to be loved. I'm hired to make them uncomfortable because it's the buyer I want to please.
Wow, that's so good. So you mentioned the generalization here, but what's the difference between a 6 or 7 figure business owner who generalizes and somebody who tries to generalize and is struggling? What makes the difference there?
You have to have the confidence to understand that your expertise is a process, and that process can be applied across industries. In other words, decision-making or conflict resolution in the airline business is not different from the insurance business. They've got insurance experts and airline experts dropping off the rafters. What they need is somebody who's smart in the processes. This whole problem with the Boeing MAX 737, while it's a mechanical issue and a software issue, the processes were poor. The processes for preparing people and pilots and so forth were poor. So it's a question, if you're interested in 7 figures and large projects and retainers and so on, you have to be seen as someone who's of high trust to senior executives because your judgment and your processes are so good. That's the key. But once people start coming forth with their methodology, I have 6 steps to a sales process. I have 7 steps to uncluttering a garage. Who the heck cares?
Wow. So how does someone then iron out or whittle down the processes or the expertise that they have that would be then valuable to a business?
It's counterintuitive. It's a great question. A great question, Robert. I call it the Michelangelo Phenomenon, and that is, if you've ever seen the David in Firenze, even though you're prepared for it, the statue is breathtaking. I mean, it's just amazing. And when they asked Michelangelo, supposedly, how he carved it out of a discarded piece of marble, he says, I cut away everything that didn't look like the David. Didn't look like David. Now, maybe that's apocryphal, but it ought to be true, you know? And what we have to do is carve away everything that doesn't look like our career, not keep adding to it. And so you have to find out what you love doing, you're passionate about, and you're great at doing. And that's your career. And then you focus on that. I'm not saying you narrow it down, but you focus on that wherever it can be applied. But people keep adding things on. You know, somebody comes and says, I run a nonprofit, and the nonprofit sells woven baskets to raise money for people who have dyslexia. But we can pay you $5,000 to speak. All of a sudden, that person says, hey, I'm in the woven basket dyslexia business. You know, It's ridiculous.
Wow. So you've given us a lot of great nuggets to think about here. And as you said, a lot of it is counterintuitive, different than the advice that most of us have been given. Right. So as you were coming up, as you were developing your business, if you can remember, what's the best piece of advice that you ever received as you built your business?
The best piece of advice is be a peer of the buyer. Don't walk in with your hat in your hand as a supplicant. Don't feel that you need to be approved of. Walk in as a peer. In other words, the buyer is evaluating whether you can help him or her, and you're evaluating whether you want to help him or her. And if you have that attitude, you'll form a partnership. If you come in, though, as obsequiously and desperately trying to find business, you'll be seen as just another employee.
Wow. Alan, where can people connect with you online to learn more about you, what you do, maybe even attend your conferences or events?
If you go to Alan-isms.com, you'll find hundreds of free videos, audios, textual materials, free. You know, please download them and take them. You'll also find all of my offerings there, which occur around the world. And I'll be happy to help you if you have further questions. Just drop me a line.
That was awesome. Mindset, confidence, persistence, knowing where you're headed. This is how you create a business that grows and lasts. As I said at the top of the show, this show was chock full of gold nuggets. So rewind, pause, take notes, and share it with a friend. After you share, head over to Apple Podcast and leave a review. I'm looking to see your name on the list. Yep. It's the good list, not the naughty list, the list you want to be on. All right. So let's do it. Hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave your review. I hope you had fun today. I hope you learned something. But most of all, I hope you were compelled to jump out of your comfort zone and share your story. Hey, don't forget, everything that happens to you in life is your stuff is your story, and your story deserves a stage. I'm Robert Kennedy III, and you've been listening to
The RK